Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to a webinar today on topic India's Solar Sector Outlook 2022. The event is organized by JMK Research, a market research and consulting firm focusing on renewable and e-mobility segment. The session is supported by GoodWe, a leading global manufacturer of string inverters. Some of the key discussion points for today's session that we are planning are to understand the capacity addition installation trends in solar sector next year. What will be the price forecast for 2022? What are the trends that we are going to foresee in the rooftop solar sector next year? And domestic PV manufacturing outlook. And lastly, potential risks and challenges that the players might face for next year. And to take on the discussions today, we have a very interesting mix of industry experts with us today. A quick intro of our experts here. We have Mr. Kevin George, Sales Manager, South India from GoodWe. Mr. Vivek Srivastav, Group CEO from Vari Energies. Mr. Sharat Ranjan, DGM Business Development from Ayana. Ms. Ritural, Senior VP and Head Institutional Sales from Amplus Solar. And Mr. Dheeraj Malani, Head Business Development from Mahindra. Thank you all to be part of this discussion today. And now, without taking much time, I think just to set the context a bit, as per what JMK Research has estimated for 2022, we are hoping about 2022 is going to be a landmark year for solar in terms of capacity installation trends. We are hoping about 15 gigawatt of utility scale solar, which will be installed. And there will be another 3.5 to 4 gigawatt of rooftop solar capacity addition that is expected. And let's hear it from our experts here today. What's their take for the next year for the solar sector? And Kevin, let's start with you first. What has been, GoodWe's reflection for solar market for growth in India in 2021? And what are your expectations for 2022? Over to you, Kevin. Kevin, are you able to hear me?
Really sorry for the delay. I think I faced some issues in the network. Okay, I'll just, can I share my screen now?
Yes, please. Are you able to do it, Kevin, or can we do it?
No, I'm not able to do that now. Let's see.
Kevin, I think in that case, we'll come back to you later. You can share your slides with us and we will showcase that.
Okay.
So Dheeraj, my next panelist that I want views on will be you. And as a leading EPC contractor, I think your views are important. So from you, we want to understand what's your take on the India solar sector outlook for next year. Over to you, Dheeraj.
Thanks, Jyoti, and good afternoon to all. Before I express my views for 2022, let's take a look back over 2020 and 2021. And we all know that's a roller coaster ride for the Indian economy and the global economy, and the reasons we all know. Solar industry is nothing apart from what has happened globally in each and every industry. And in other industries, the common term is revenge buying. So that is what we are also facing here in 2021. That 2020, which was a dip in the installation going below, I think somewhere 3 gigawatt or something we have installed, in spite of annually 7-8 gigawatt, which we were installing. So that revenge installation has taken place in 2021, in spite of the hike in the commodity prices, the price hike in the products which we are using. Module, we all know that from last few quarters, there is a continuous increase in the module prices. So in spite of that, 2021 has gone well in terms of installation. The reason could be PPA, PPA requirements, the kind of installation which we have to do of the backlog of 2020. And so that is how 2021 shows a good number of, I think, 11 gigawatt of plus till date what we have achieved. Now, similar phenomena we are expecting that in 2022 it will be carry forward to an extent, but there are headwinds and tailwinds both for 2022. If I split the total installation cost between module and BOS, then in 2022 you will find that people may get ready with their BOS infrastructure to an extent, but the module prices, people will wait for the module prices to get normalized before the final commissioning to take place. Now, when I say BOS readiness, so still there are issues with that also, because commodity prices till date has not gone to that normal level which we were expecting from a cost point of view, what people might have considered while bidding into the projects. But if I take a global view of US Fed tapering on the bonds and similar things we can expect from the RBI in the coming month to control the inflation, and if that happens, then definitely the commodity prices may get reduced, and then normally then after a certain period will get normalized, and that will give a kind of good cost numbers to the EPC player or to the developers to get their project installed in 2020-22. But this module price, yes, that remains a major worry, because that has to go drastically down, because what has happened in the history of the solar, that people have seen module prices on the decreasing trend, and that is how developers keep on going with the aggressive bidding. It might be that this time they have to change a little bit this scenario. Now, the price forecasts for 2022, I believe the price increase has already taken place in the tariff, as we have seen in the GUVNL 9th phase bidding and then 10th phase bidding, that there is a 20 paisa increase because of module and maybe GST, the increase which has taken place in the past. So similarly, there is a tariff increase expected, but on the other hand, since more of hybrid bids are coming, RTC bids are coming, these floating bids are coming, and so nowadays solar is not only providing this day power, but a kind of RTC or a combination of day and night power which will be offered to the DISCOMs. So that will give a kind of relief to the DISCOMs, that the tariff increase which will take place, they will compensate with the peak power energy which they will get from the renewables, especially the solar side. In terms of risks and challenges, I believe we have discussed this in this last 5-10 minutes views, but the payment risks which are happening with the developer is a kind of concern, and government need to take care of that particular aspect, and the backlog of PSAs that I think getting relieved to an extent, but need to be more smoothened out. And for both these aspects, I think the distribution side reforms which government is targeting, they need to accelerate it. Although I think in the morning I have heard something that in the bill of amendment bill of Electricity Act, there is some changes happening in which distribution reforms might take a little bit slow down, but I think that's the dire need, that distribution reforms need to be done. That is good for G and T both. And other than this payment risk, there the new mutant risk, or these are already happening, and we all get to know that we can push back, but we can't control the entire stuff. I think these are the two major risks which developers will face in 2022. Yeah, that's from my side, Jyoti. Thank you.
Thank you, Dheeraj. You have talked about how module prices has led to tariff increase, but do you have any numbers or range to talk about for next year? Because with BCD also in place, What's your take? Are the tariffs going to rise further?
As I said, the tariff is gonna increase, but more and more of hybrid and RTC bids you are gonna see in the coming years. That's my personal perspective, rather than plain vanilla solar. So comparing the plain vanilla solar with the hybrid or with the RTC, that's will not justice to the bids. But price increase definitely, because your input costs are soaring, and even though we control, government might take action to control the inflation and other things, but it will not go to that particular cost which we were enjoying maybe 2 years back so easily. So our increase is already, as we have seen in the GUVNL, 20 paisa hike. So similar kind of things we will see in 2022.
Thank you, Dheeraj. Let's talk about the prices a little bit more detail. And we have from Mr. Vivek Srivastav from Bari, who can give some kind of insights from module size perspective. So Mr. Vivek, you have heard what Dheeraj just said. What's your take on the market, specifically for domestic manufacturers for next year? And do you think the module, what's any views on the module prices for next year? You are on mute, Mr. Vivek.
Good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me. Before I put my take on module prices and do a Russian roulette, let me talk about some of the secular trends that are pretty evident so that we get the perspective right. One is that the demand for solar will continue to climb, but with a lag. We are all aware of the policy measures, etc., the pipeline of tenders, but there will be a lag. And that's got an impact on the domestic manufacturing also, because all the figures about 40 gigawatt per annum deployment going up from 12 to 40 are essentially due to the latency in execution. So typically, while other panelists can mention about from the date of award of PPA to commissioning, what was the timeline and what it is going to be now because of the land acquisition, because of several other uncertainties that are now coming in, including the signing of PPAs. So I think the mood factor that is going to determine at a macro level about be it deployment or be it inter alia production is going to be the latency in execution. I think Dheeraj touched upon, but the two biggest derailers that can happen this year is the DISCOM issue. I think when we look at the kind of outstandings that are there, while we may have a small window still of continuing with lower interest rates, but when developers or anybody for that matter is going to be singed with the kind of outstanding payments, it has a cascading impact, because ultimately that's what is going to impact the project pacing, and it is also going to impact the line of ordering. There's no way, if 40% of in a business where bids are so competitive and the amounts are so huge, that if 43% is the outstanding, that the entire value chain won't suffer. So I think, to me, that is the single most issue to be addressed. The other issues are what I call emergent. We all have a knack of kind of only looking at the immediate issues. But to me, that's the overarching issue that's going to matter. The Electricity Act holds a lot of promises. There are some things that need to be ironed out. But unless the stranglehold of DISCOMs on the kind of, if I can say, usage of power or the generation of power goes away, there are going to be issues. I mean, look at somebody who is wanting to install a CNI project. The fact of the matter is that the project economics look very good in spite of increased prices, but the interface of issues with the DISCOMs, and somebody was telling me that a local manufacturer who wants to put up a solar module manufacturer capacity of 4 gigawatt, the single biggest issue is they want to put up a captive solar power plant, but to put that up, more than the cost of power would be the banking charges. So these kind of archaic rules, if India has to do 500 gigawatt of renewables, will need to be addressed. And I think there are good positive signs from ministry, good vibes coming in, but these need to be translated into that. The third part that we talked about is about the cost irrespective. I think cost is irrespective of import, exports, what's happening in the short haul. for me, if I look at the cost, levelized cost of solar energy, the trend that has been there, it's typically what they call in share market, looking from 1,000 feet versus a 40,000 feet level. There has been a kind of a blip where it's an upward spike which has happened. But remember, all developers, all EPC players, all manufacturers were used to on Excel a graph of a sliding level. Okay, so everybody had got used to the fact that whatever you take as the SPV module price, it will slide. I think there is a short period of window where this will continue, but ultimately technology, scale, and the kind of market the world is growing. Look at the size of the global market, forget India only. The per watt module cost will continue to slide. Our guess is that at current levels, plain vanilla solar power cost production, SPV cost production, if it is 2 rupee 30, 240, 210, whatever it is, has to come down closer to 1 rupee. Not because of competitiveness, but because of the technology. It's the same rule that applies for chips, and that will continue. If we plot a graph of energy density on the solar module, and I think a few years back, or maybe when India started solar, it was 204 rupees per watt. Now what is close to 20 rupees per watt. So we have already seen that. And I think irrespective of the small window of what has happened in the past 6 months, the overall trend will continue to be a declining trend in solar prices. Coming to domestic solar manufacturing, which is what the question you asked for, we are seeing a few clear trends in that. One is the non-tariff barriers. Let's not look at the tariff. The non-tariff barrier of ALMM, domestic content, etc., is now getting to cast its impact. As I said, any project takes about 20 to 24 months before the module ordering happens. So I think next year, the natural sink of demand, whereby irrespective of duties, one won't be able to use the modules, the domestic modules, especially the tenders after 9th of April, will be quite visible. So that is part one. Part two, what I call the fragmented market of CNI, retail, and rural, CNI, rooftop, and rural. All these three markets, be it your company's research reports for the past 6 months or the others, including the MNRE, point to one direction, which is up. And it's not just because of the vacuum, the kind of drawback we had over last year and this year's COVID impact, but it's a natural outcome of the policies and everything taking fruition. Remember one thing which is going to be a very big impact factor in driving rooftops and CNI projects, that is the ESG. And ESG is not something that will happen so easily, because when we have companies who no longer have ESG, at least the top 1,000 as voluntary, but mandatory, the net impact of that in terms of the carbon reduction, power, the alternate power generation, and some of these industries, I'm not looking at number as 1,000, some of these are very energy intensive industries. That impact, when it starts coming in from the second half of next financial year, will actually create a huge market for solar manufacturing, for solar and inter alia solar manufacturing. I think very interesting events, I can't say it about, I don't speak for all SPV manufacturers, but at least at Waaree, I can tell you, it is very interesting, the kind of demand we are seeing from export markets, can't mention the names, but North America and Europe is so huge that if I sign up my entire capacity for them, I would be happy rather than, competing in the local market for pennies and paisas. It is that level, and essentially that is coming from the realization of de-risking of the supply chain. Everyone, the US developers who don't work on the same model as in India, where cost of module is around 30 to 31% of their total cost of project, and where the modality of project execution is different, don't see a problem in paying a premium of 5% for three things. Number one, the longevity of the product has to be matched with the company's life. We are seeing that even though in China, the companies are large in size, how many actually remain in business after a few years? Number two, the geopolitical issues. Yesterday, the bill, day before yesterday, the bill has come, that has come up in US Senate, and increasingly a realization that this wave, the last 3 months, what happened, when just writing 2-line letter of saying force majeure and canceling the contract can happen again. And imagine the impact it has on a developer in a country like USA, where the window closes in August of deployment. Best is September end because of the weather, of the winds and the snow falling, and the project can't be done just because somebody writes it's a force majeure, we can't supply you. So all this has led to strong demand from markets. And I think Indian domestic module manufacturers would be looking very much forward to those markets. And there also one of the important things is, unlike in India, where look at the disadvantage, when we compete with Chinese modules, even with best effort, all the items, we have to pay customs duty. We have to pay what you call anti-dumping duty, whatever you may say, while the module suppliers don't have to. So the arbitrage between prices goes up to, and plus some of the countries have incentives for supplying to India, they're domestically. So whatever you may do, that arbitrage which goes up to 12 to 14%, when we export, it is not there. So when I go to USA and compare my price to Chinese modules, because the import, what I net off from the import duties, when I do that, I'm very competitive there. So that's very interesting phenomena, that in my own country, I'm not competitive, but abroad I am competitive and I'm a preferred module supplier. Now coming to the domestic market, the three things that are happening simultaneously. PLI, we are all aware, but since this session is more about next year, PLI won't have an impact for next year. What we are seeing is it's more a 2-year latency period for after somebody gets it, sources the land, puts a plant, stabilizes. It's 18 months is what is official, but let's say 24 months is what it will take for PLI impact to kick in. We have gone ahead and increased our production from 2 to 5 gigawatt, irrespective of PLI. We are very clear PLI is an additional incentive. When it comes, we'll put in 4 gigawatt more. So that is part one, that domestic module manufacturing, I believe what has been added in last 12 years or 14 years, equivalent to 14 plus 2 gigawatt, some say 12 plus 2 gigawatt, whatever is that number, we'll see that addition happening in the next 12 months. So whatever the country has added in the last decade and a half, or maybe close to that, will be the addition this year. If we aggregate the total plans of everyone, and I'm not talking about, plans, whatever equipment has been ordered. So we have data from the Chinese equipment manufacturer. And if I look at that, somebody who has ordered equipment and has already shipped it will definitely put it up. There is no way it won't happen. And that manufacturing capacity is going to be enough for the domestic market. The way I look at it is, there is the myth that domestic manufacturing cannot support the total requirement is, I don't know, it's a fiction at best stated. Because if we simply add up the total capacity and the tenders online, rooftop of 4 gigawatt, 15 gigawatt of utility, the domestic capacity will be much more. I mean, ultimately, then people have to distinguish between tier 1, tier 2, etc. That's a different matter. The other secular trend that is going to be very interesting is, just like in oil markets or anything, we say the commodity cycle, there's a new benchmark that gets created. So typically we say prices go from X to 2X and then normalize around 1.4 or 1.5X. What is happening in this market now, in the solar market, temporarily is that X to 2X and stability at 1.4. So we are looking at not just the solar modules. I mean, we are also EPC players. When I look at my all other costings, be it copper, be it manpower, everywhere there is an increase. Normally it does not happen that everything actually goes for northwards at the same point of time. This is also in a project life cycle the first time when any item you check, any item you touch has gone northwards other than the cost of finance. So I think in the context of if one is looking at a price forecast for modules, the answer is nobody will be able to do that forecast correctly. There are so differing trends. Some people talk about polysilicon capacity coming, huge polysilicon capacity coming in, and hence rates crashing down. My view is rates don't crash down. Rates should normalize. Normalize what I said from X to 1.4X. If they had gone to 2.5X, that's not sustainable. Secondly, to me, since India will continue to import cells, I mean, the cell manufacturing capacity is less. What will be the debottlenecking definition is how soon the cell plants come on stream or come on stream next year, September. That is going to be the reduction in cost. But I believe that if someone were to ask me, will solar modules cost for developers in India or for rooftop or for any segment go up? My guess is by few basis points, yes, that has to go up due to the current, when people are putting up capacities and import duties are still remaining, it is bound to happen. The only thing that will happen is that they will probably be able to realize value out of this due to the BCD coming in from 1st of April. And even if the importers crash their price by 25%, which is possible, the delta which is there will be favorable towards domestic manufacturers. And I think most importantly, if ALMM is implemented in true spirit, which is what MNRE is saying, whether any scheme, tender, government, net metering, then domestic manufacturers can heave a sigh of relief and invest more in the capacities and in the technology. I think very mindful of the fact that the technology we are talking about, monoPERC, which everybody is putting up, other than 1 or 2 people, that will go through a significant transition in 2 years. That's my belief. So one has to be prepared not only for the manufacturing capacity, but what we call SKUs of technology types. Those are some of my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vivek. Those are wonderful insights, I think, with those concrete numbers. And at the pace which this domestic PV manufacturing is evolving, there are many questions that I have. But let me take that up in the next round. So Ritu, I will ask from you now. You have heard what Mr. Vivek has said, that there is a huge demand they are seeing from the C&I segment. What has been your take? What's next year going to be? And do you think with the price increase, I think will C&I market will face difficulties because of that?
Am I audible, Jyoti?
Yes, you are.
So thank you. Very interesting perspectives so far. In terms of C&I market, I believe the demand is very strong. Okay, everybody is trying, especially in the responsible C&I segment. The push towards going net zero is extremely strong. Yes, of course, if I were to compare the price of an installation in 2019 versus what it was in 2021 and what I foresee in 2022, obviously it's much higher, right? But it is what it is. It's like, when you have to purchase something, 2 years back it was more expensive or it was cheaper. Today it is a particular price. Tomorrow it might change. How long does one wait? So in the past we did see, 2-3 years back, we used to see some potential C&I customers saying, no, if we wait it out for 5-6 months, the prices are going to go lower and higher. But after the pandemic, we see this kind of speculation slowing down. So people are seeing solar for what it is, which is green energy, and it remains cheaper, right? Even at today's prices, if I were to compare the cost of setting up C&I solar, whether on-site or off-site, it is cheaper than what they are buying from the grid. The issues are more on the policy and regulation side. All the challenges remain on that side. And even what we've grown in 2021, and 2021 has been a massive year for rooftop solar, right? I don't think we have ever installed as much in any single year as we've done in the last. It's been despite policies. It's not really been at the back of a humongous amount of policy support in the rooftop segment. Open access, yes, and that's the thing about open access. It will be concentrated in those states which make it feasible. But rooftop, there's very few, really progressive states with policy. But we see the pull from, C&I clients will remain strong. We see less speculative behavior. We see more focus towards immediate action. The time for negotiations has come down. Earlier it used to take several months, 10, 12, 14 months from your first interaction to when you signed the PPA. All of those timelines have come down. And I do hope that, this will be the trend from a demand side going for the next year. Some concerns that I have, and I heard Mr. Srivastava from Waaree, and there is a bit of, there are some issues which I have when it's great for, really from a country's point of view, if companies like Waaree are able to sell heavily in the export market, great for them, great for the economy. But it's very bad news for developers. Because if the tier one guys are going to end up exporting, there will be a capacity constraint for us. Right? I mean, at a stretch, I mean, you were looking at, Jyoti, your numbers, you said about 15 gigawatts of utility and about, let's say 4 gigawatts of 5. So talking about anywhere between 19, 20 gigawatts of capacity. Right? Not everybody again is tier one like a Waaree is. I mean, we faced it, there are times when we want Waaree modules and they're not available because they are in demand. So there are issues and quality cannot be given a low consideration. Unfortunately, and this is a reason why in our country we face a lot of issues, right? We set up a road and when the road is inaugurated, you break a coconut and the road caves in. So that it comes from poor quality control. It's not like we don't understand quality. It's not like we don't have the best quality available in the country. But somewhere, quality becomes, a secondary aspect and the entire focus goes on numbers and pricing. And this is something that we need to change. This complete obsession with keeping the cost down and then, compromising somewhere on quality. And I've heard very concerning statements where I say, let the tier one go to utility and rooftop can use everything else. And I'm sorry, it doesn't work like that. We are going to suffer. It's not like any individual company or a developer. If the quality of your solar assets, whether set up privately or with public expenditure, is not good, you can't undo it. The cost of repowering is going to be tremendously high. You're going to have incurred a huge amount of expense and get suboptimal generation. Your own targets are not going to get fulfilled. So in its current format, I find ALMM a very, very concerning aspect because I go to a financer, most of those names over there will not get me financing, will not get me any robust, high quality financing that I require to be competitive. So that is one place where I think there is a dissonance, from a EPC developer and frankly, as a solar professional, from that point of view to what we are trying to achieve. Of course, if we are going to get high capacity, fully integrated, end-to-end solar manufacturing domestically, maybe it's worth paying that extra premium. Because if something of value is going to come in, the premium might be, there might be some justification for it. But then there also have to be availability guarantees. If the best quality of Indian manufacturing is going to go into the Western markets, where does that leave Indian solar capacity addition? So that is something again where we need intervention. Lastly, very disappointing to read about, DBT, the direct benefit transfer, being dropped from, the draft Electricity Amendment Bill, because without these reforms, you'll never resolve the DISCOM issues. And until the DISCOM issue is resolved, integration of renewable energy into the grid is always going to be a problem. So I mean, it was it wasn't a very big headline, but it should have been, because we were really hoping that some meaningful reforms would come through. And, subsidy has nothing to do with distribution. One of the reasons distribution companies are in the mess that they are is because they've been forced to sell subsidized electricity. So if we are not going to reform this, I really don't know how some of the other, policy initiatives that we had with our humongous targets that we have for renewables. And eventually, even if you start doing utility scale plants, integrating them is going to be an issue. There is no going away from storage. You're going to have to, you can do as much hybrid. And when you talk about round the clock, somewhere, some sort of storage is going to have to be built in. And with our size, those storage numbers are also going to be humongous. That again has gone on the back burner. So, yes, hydrogen is important. Hydrogen will be a key source for energy. But, and I know yesterday 2 days back, we were reading about that hydrogen, for electricity, where you're going to use solar to hydrolyze, and that hydrogen was going to go into a battery. So I think, and I'm thinking sitting there, why do we need that hydrogen in between? You already have the PV, you already have the storage. What perhaps obviously there must be some value addition, but hydrogen will not replace storage. And some people in India tend to think that it will. So that again is a huge issue that we need to address now, because I know I'm talking of something which is going to have an impact in the medium to long term. But the medium to long term is built by a collection of immediate and short terms, right? So what decisions we take today, what policy direction we give, is going to have an impact on how we get to 2070. So that's it from me for now.
Thanks, Ritu. Completely agree on your DISCOM issue. I think we every time talk about the issues and challenges, and this is one issue which has no solution anywhere. Okay, let's hear it now from a utility scale developer perspective. Sharath, are you here? Sharath, you have heard what Mr. Srivastava has talked about, the ALM issue, and what Ritu has also mentioned, the concern related to ALM. From a utility scale developer perspective, what do you think will be the key challenges for a developer for next year? And what do you think this overall market will be like?
From the utility scale, see, we keep on bidding for our hybrid solar, plain vanilla, wind, and RTC peak power requirement. Whatever bids comes up, we bid. But what we have seen in the recent past is that the challenge that we are coming up is on the solar module side. The costing has enormously gone up on the higher side. So in fact, this was also vetted by Mr. Srivastava, where he said that everything has gone northwards except the debt cost. So what I feel is that on your specific question on 2022, I think the Chinese modules especially will be going up because of various reasons, and especially the trend we perceive that it will continue till Q2 of 2022. And this is because of the multiple reasons that could be because we also been analyzing this particular thing, and we found that the commodity prices has gone up, and there are significant challenges in China itself, and that's because of their own electricity problems, and there is a demand supply mismatch. So the module cost per se will be high till Q2 of 2022. Maybe after that we may see that that may go in a downward direction. So that is one thing that we perceive. But we have been now seeing from the SECIs that the utility scale solar plain vanilla bids will be comparatively low, because what was last concluded was just 6 months back, and now that we have only from the state bids which are coming up, and the next bids that will be coming up will be the hybrid, which is already there. We have already bidded, and the RTC is also there, which will come up, and the government is more focusing on these kind of bids, so which will be mix of solar, wind, battery, and all, to meet the peak power requirement and the round the clock requirements. So I think the normalization of the tariff will happen only after the Q2 2022. But the tariff trends, which was lastly to ₹2.36 to ₹2.38, that I don't think that there will be a lower tariff than that of what has been already gone to that direction. So that's my view on this. Yeah.
Thank you, Sharath, for your views. Okay, Kevin, next I want to hear, you have heard, what even Ritu has mentioned, that the rooftop market, C&I market, has grown in 2021, and there are huge plans for 2022 that we are expecting. So you, as a leading equipment supplier for this market, what has been your take, some reflections for 2021, and what do you think, what are your expectations for next year?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Share. I can hear you, Kevin. Should I share the PPT?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, Kevin, you can start, please.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Talking about Goodwe. This is a decade-old company, and we have been in India since 2018. In last 5 years, we are able to supply more than 1 gigawatt of solar inverters to the Indian market. And this is one of our biggest achievement, and we thank all our stakeholders and the prestigious clients and all the team for helping us achieve this milestone. And talking about the vision for Goodwe has always been to create a new era of smart energy. The word smart energy doesn't mean just for inverters, but also in terms of smart inverters, hybrid inverters, IoT devices, and communication devices. And the mission has always been to be the driving force in this changing environment where everyone is moving towards sustainable energy. That we always strive to build a better not only for us but also for the upcoming generations. Talking about the quality and the brand recognition that we have.
Kevin, we are not able to hear you properly. I think some network issue.
Am I audible now?
Yes, it's better now.
Okay. Can you move to the next slide?
Yeah.
Yeah, these are the milestones that we have achieved. That starting from 2010, the company was established to 2021. Right now, having earned the 6 TUV Rail Quality Awards for the 6 years in consecutive row, and apart from that, being listed in the Shanghai Stock Exchange in the year 2020. Talking about the small things, we started from a small company. Now we are almost a $200 million company in the year 2020. So this is what Goodwe has achieved in over these 10 years. Talking about the size of the Goodwe family we have more than 2,000 employees, of which 500 plus employees are only in R&D, and 70 plus are in the overseas employees. Talking just as I was saying about the revenue, we crossed 200 plus $1 million in the year 2020, and we are still climbing that ladder in this year as well. Talking about the quality of Goodwe and the brand recognition, I'm very proud to say that we are the licensed partner for GE. Talking about this scenario, the GE were looking to enter the solar market, and they had contacted most of the OEM people, the companies throughout the world, and they had set out a set of rigid selection criteria, which was set by their own research and scientists who work in GE. And from that, 32 manufacturers were selected, and finally they narrowed it down to Goodwe. So Goodwe is the only licensed partner for GE. The things that they looked at is not just the build of material or the technical capabilities. They also looked at the financial stability of the firm, as well as the aesthetic design of the inverter, and the service coverage, plus the brand recognition that we have in the world. So this is one of the point where I would say that what Goodwe has achieved by partnering with GE shows how capable and how stable Goodwe as a brand is in the for the string inverter market. Can you go to the
Kevin,
next
if I may request that you quickly run onto the slides, because I think there are 32 slides that are there. Can we quickly move on to this thing?
Yeah, sure. These are the global presences on an overview on that, where we have the branches all over the world. India, we have 2 sales branches and 3 service centers. I'll just 2 R&D centers we do have, and 2 manufacturing firms. These are the global partners we have, and these are the project owners. These are some of the awards which we have recently got, and that we can showcase proudly is the TUV Quality Awards, which we have been getting since last 6 years. Also the UPD Top Brand Awards for the last 5 years. The total production capacity for Goodwe is 25 gigawatt, and and for the battery manufacturing capacity is 400 megawatt hour. This is some of the pictures of the state-of-the-art Goodby headquarters that we have. And overall installation base is 23 plus gigawatt now, of which 12 is from residential and 11 is from commercial. 500 megawatt we have already supplied as an energy storage. These are the global rankings that Goodby has. Goodby is the #1 inverter storage supplier globally, and it enjoys a top position in the ZEC. As you can see in the next slide, it holds almost 50% of the market share in ZEC, ZEC Republic, and 20% in India, followed by Spain and Netherlands. So these are the warehouses we maintain globally. We have almost warehouses in 7 countries, including India. We have a bonded warehouse in Panvel, where we stock all the inverters specifically for the Indian market. In pre-sales activity, I would like to share some light on the Solar Academy. It is a solar. It is a unit of Goodby which helps in pre-sales activities. Also has a forum wherein anyone from any one part of the world can access and have hands-on on all the technology. And also they can put up the queries which our team will be more than happy to.
Kevin, we have again lost you. I think there's some disturbance with the sound.
I'm really sorry. I think the network is too bad. Can you? Okay.
Yeah, can we quickly
So
move on
talking-
to your India? I think let's talk about the India story here, because I think the network is unstable and we are short of time as well.
Okay. I'll just say something about the product now. We have the product starting from 700 watts to 250 kilowatt. And we are also into the energy storage, which we'll be promoting next year in a big way. This is a residential solution starting from 0.7 to 15 kilowatt. And then we have the C&I, which starts from 17 kilowatt to 136 kilowatt. These inverters are all having the full load operations at 50 degrees Celsius. The maximum is 12 MPPTs. And then we have the utility scale inverter, which was launched last year. It is a 250 kilowatt inverter, and it's compatible with all the high power models which are available in the market now, along with the SVG functions. Talking about the hybrid inverters, we have the inverters starting from 3 to 50 kilowatt. So these are the inverters that we have. Along with that, we do manufacture lithium-ion batteries. These are our own brand name lithium-ion batteries. These two in the next year we'll be promoting in a big way in India. Finally, I will tell about the SEMS portal. That is nothing but smart energy management system. This is a cost-free monitoring platform that we offer to all our customers. So that's it for the Goodby presentation from my side.
Thank you, Kevin, for showcasing your products. I think let's get back to the discussion where we left off with others. So, Mr. Srivastav, I have few questions for you that I want to know your opinion on. Yeah, Mr. Srivastav. So there is one thing that we have heard from the players is that the existing lines are going to be obsolete with the technology evolution that is happening. The existing lines are going to be obsolete and new lines will be. So how do you think from a domestic manufacturer perspective, you are going to address this kind of a challenge and what impact it will have on the overall capacity building numbers that we are talking about after the PLI scheme as well?
So on the technology front, it's a 3-dimensional issue. One is how is the technology evolving globally? Second is what transition path will it take in the country? And third is what kind of preparedness one needs to have to do this transition. So I think the answers are obvious. The last 14 years have seen 5 major changes, and there is no reason to believe that these changes would get accelerated as we come in. The changes will happen along the chemistry, along the higher intensity coating and material sciences. So these are things, and as we know, there are today several experimentations going on. We are aware, in fact, even in the PLI application, people have put in with different technologies, but India seems to be following right now a trajectory of silicon-based, moving towards a higher wattage, though slowly than globally, but then that's what it is following. So I think for 2-3 years, it will be monoPERC that will continue en masse, while the other technologies like HJT, TOPCon, and the other ones, which some of them we are also working upon, but they are not being in public domain, I can't share here, will transition. So what is also important is in SPV manufacturing, let's look at the cost, because technology obsolescence is a reality and everybody has to deal with that. So typically, if you are spending X amount of money, there is money on land development, utilities, etc. Then there is things like air conditioning, civil work, etc. These actually don't go out much. So the fear that the entire investment will go, will have to be siphoned off, will have to be drained out is not correct. What also happens is some of these, for example, we have been upgrading lines. You can do some changes like higher cells if you are careful in investing at the first stage itself, rather than only plan for 140 cell size. If you have thought of it and actually provided for 210, then it's only a question of changing 20% of the machinery and getting it up to fire again. So this is how you deal with technology obsolescence. We are very mindful that when we are putting up new cell lines, that we are kind of de-risking ourselves with two technologies, but that's what as much as I can share. The second part, in fact, I would like to assuage Ritu's concerns about, Waaree deciding to dump the Indian market for exports. In the correct context, what is important is to know Waaree has been wedded to the Indian market and continues to do so, its commitment. What I meant was that the kind of pull we are seeing, the kind of inquiries we are seeing from US markets and European markets is very heartening. And at no cost, we would move away to supplying to them at the cost of domestic market. That's the bread and butter, wedded to them. And obviously it would require investment. I am not authorized to talk about it because we are going through an IPO process, but we have a very robust process of investment, both in India and abroad. And as and when it comes to, we believe we have the project management experience to scale up lines within 6 months. So as I said, we have already grown from 2 to 5 gigawatt. The other 3 gigawatt is operational. 2 gigawatt will come on stream in the next few weeks. And beyond that, the moment the PLI issue is resolved, we are ready with 4 gigawatts. So in a market where the next year demand is going to be being anticipated at 20 gigawatt, I can assure her that 50% of that capacity Waaree can fulfill on its own without exporting. So no worries from a tier 1 manufacturer. Thank you for the compliments. But on the other side of the fence, I can only say we are also an EPC player, and I'm seeing a very heartening prospect that the domestic developers and the well-known EPC players are now willing to distinguish on the module quality, not only just in terms of productivity, longevity, performance beyond the normal certifications. We are getting into some very interesting dialogues about how you can do few things beyond what was always mandated. So that's a very heartening conversation, I would say, for quality manufacturers. And that also challenges quality manufacturers to continue to upgrade the bar. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivek, for your opinion. Ritu, I would like to next take on you one more question. Actually, we are seeing that there are a lot of restrictions around open access market, and then net metering restriction, then banking restriction. So as a project developer, what are the alternate models that you think the market is going to look into going forward? Specifically, if we can have some insights on this virtual power purchase, VPPA market that everybody is talking, is that only on paper, or do you think some action is going to take place there as well? Anything on the new business models that developers are exploring to counter these restrictions? Ritu, your voice is not very clear. Some bit, yeah, you can.
Sorry, I don't know why. Sometimes I think the network is a bit weak at times. Because I'm sitting exactly as I was even when we started. So, are you able to hear me?
No, can you be a bit louder if possible?
Let me just get headphones, okay? Just one
Yeah, okay. Fine. Meanwhile, let me take my next question with Sharat. You, okay? We have seen that till now developers are favoring Chinese suppliers in most of the utility scale installations. What has been your view, or as a project developer, will you be how keen you will be to absorb domestic manufacturers in your utility scale projects? Any views on that, Sharat?
Yeah. See, it's very difficult decision to get into the domestic manufacturing model. The domestic models installing for our projects. But see, it's all price driven because 50 to 60% of our project cost is from the module. So of course, modules play an important role in the decision making, and that's the reason we are also exploring the domestic front as well, because it has to be cost advantages to the projects as well. So for our upcoming projects, we are evaluating the domestic and Chinese modules both. But yes, preference is there with the Chinese one. But we are seeing the prices to cool down. As I said, that we expect that it has to normalize by third or fourth quarter of the next year, and we expect that this should happen because the inherent problems which is there with the China and the raw material cost which has gone up, probably that will cool down, and over a period of time we can see a normalized price. So but yes, we are looking at the domestic modules as well for our projects as far as the new one is concerned, which we have won through hybrid and the plain vanilla solar. So we are evaluating both the options.
Thank you, Sharad. Dheeraj, same question for you. Do you think, I think we have seen that kind of a concern, domestic versus Chinese suppliers in terms of financing when you give the tier one options for Chinese manufacturer versus the domestic manufacturer. Technology competitiveness is one thing. Anything, any your views on this, please?
So my personal views is that it is for a project developer, it is not Chinese or Indian. It is the module which has to perform as per its standards and has to be economically viable for the project. In the past, you have already seen that the domestic modules were not able to compete with the Chinese pricing, and in terms of performance also, if not better, I will say that maybe at the tier one Indian and the tier one Chinese are at the same platform. So when both are performing well, and for the project economics, it is making more sense for the Chinese, then it is Chinese. But there is nothing against something or this and that. If Indian module makes economical sense in the project, I think everybody would love to do that.
Thanks, Dheeraj. Ritu, coming back to you now. I think your voice is this. So I wanted to again reiterate my question is, with so many restrictions around open access and rooftop market, what are the countermeasures or models that business developers are exploring?
Okay, hi, am I audible now?
Yeah, much better.
Okay. So as I was saying, all the restrictions are, they are ones that are imposed. And they're imposed with, with the intent of creating some roadblocks or limiting the adoption of C&I solar, right? So as long as that intent does not change, it's easy to create roadblocks everywhere. Of course, virtual PPA sounds like a very good product, right? It would involve two entities, perhaps, right? Apart from a developer or an EPC, and it works. But again, if that's something that picks up and it becomes a hindrance, perceived hindrance to the distribution company, there are various ways to clamp down on that as well. I don't think the issue really is with the business models. For example, we don't even have leasing. If you look at the Middle East market, UAE, a lot of the OPEX model there works more as a leasing model. It's how it operates is not very different, but we don't have it for GST issues and it's those kind of concerns here in the Indian market. But otherwise, we have plain capex, we have plain opex, then we also have captive, and now captive has also become a route to restrict the amount of C&I renewables. you know, the nature of energy does not change depending on how much equity who has put into that solar plant, but it just becomes that much more complex. So I think once the intent is there to solve the issues that impact the discom, because there is no running away from the fact that you are going to need distributed renewables. And within distributed generation, one of the most adaptable and easy to use forms is solar. Because unlike a turbine, you don't have to create a different size turbine, right? Solar is a very modular product. So you use exactly the same product that you're using in a gigawatt scale farm if I were to produce a kilowatt scale solar plant. So, that way it's very, very simple. So the question is more behind policy intent and reform, because I do not think this country will get to its goal without getting the focus back on distributed generation. And we are missing that entirely. But, and we've discussed this in different webinars as well, Jyoti, because if you look at solarized countries of the world, all of them have a very, very healthy percentage of distributed generation in their energy mix. So that is how I would like to answer that question. And we've found ways around, the policy hindrances. You've done behind the meter. Some cases we have challenged the kind of costs that have been imposed on solar plants. And it keeps us very busy. It unfortunately keeps us distracted from our prime goal. And we end up working with law firms and going to appellates and here and there. I wish this did not have to happen with this regularity. So this is a massive pain point that I feel helps nobody except the law firms. So this is something
Right,
that we need
Ritu.
to look at.
Right, Ritu. We have also, we are.
Jyoti, can I add one point here?
Yes, please.
On the virtual PPA when we were discussing? Even in the RTC PPAs also, if we look into the particular RFP document in detail and the kind of flexibility that PPA has given for the capacity installation, but the kind of restrictions they have put up from the evacuation point of view, I believe the kind of products which are coming on the power exchanges, the efficient utilization of those products need to be done to get all the electrons getting billed to the final beneficiary, because RTC PPA also need the efficient utilization of the exchanges in parallel. So virtual PPA also, I believe in the context of the open access, that strengthening of more products in the power exchanges will help boost the open access market as well as the RTC market.
Right, Dheeraj. And to add on to what you were saying, I think everyone now knows that energy storage will be the game changer to fix that discom issue. But how far is that from now? Do you think that will make commercial sense? I think Kevin here also, Goodwill is also planning some battery storage projects next year. Your comments are also important. But Ritu, you first, please. Anything on this?
So I think there is a huge opportunity for storage. It is going to be faster than we realize, the cost effectiveness of it, especially if we talk of efficiently using storage, and with these hybrid projects that are coming up, even, on-site hybrid projects are coming up. We've seen some interesting executions of solar, with the wind. We've seen off-site projects. Obviously, hybrid is a huge potential. We are developing a lot of these projects as well. They're still in the pipeline, but they have a lot of advantages. And one of those advantages is that you can have a sized storage. Because, if you're doing a solar and wind hybrid, the sizing of the storage becomes more optimal. I think it's maybe as soon as 4 years away, which is closer than you think. And once again, if we are not going to prepare for it as a country, if we are not going to have reforms at the discoms end, and what will happen when companies start to cut off or reduce their electricity requirements, the connected load or so that they have from the grid? Are they going to come up with policies that say that if you reduce, then we won't supply you at all, or you can buy either from me or not? Where is that going to go? Because the more you try to restrict, the more difficult it is going to be, and it's just a question of time. So somewhere something has to give. When from the Discom side, we understand the issues. We understand that today in particular is hitting the Discom revenues, and we need to do something about it. I was hoping that DBT would be a way forward. So it's really very, very disheartening to see what has happened over there. But early days yet. Let's see what happens.
Right, Ritu. Dheeraj, if you have any insights to add on battery storage along with these hybrid and RTC tenders, do you think that's going to be a reality?
Yeah, I think that's the need of the hour. So we cannot escape from that. And storage is something which will help in better demand side management. So as Ritu said, that Discom's issues also need to be taken care of, because at the end of the day, they have to manage the entire schedule of the state. So definitely storage will play a critical role.
Kevin, any comments from you?
Yes, like it's rightly said that hybrid is the next big thing, and it's coming soon. Maybe not this year, maybe not by the mid of next year, but it's coming soon. And if we can see the policies that are keep on changing in the solar market, and soon everyone will be forced to shift towards the hybrid inverters. Maybe not. I'm not talking about the large scale inverter. Sorry, the utility scale, but at least at the distributed level. Even the rooftops or the C&Is will one day or the other they have to move to the hybrid inverters.
Right, Kevin. And I think with that, I want to conclude this session. Thank you everyone for sharing such wonderful, enriching insights. It's a pleasure to host you all. Thank you to all the panelists to join us for this session. Special thanks to Goodbee for supporting us in this webinar. The recording of this webinar will be available on our website shortly. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day and good weekend ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Jyoti.
Thank you.
for
Thank
the
you very
panelists.
much.
Thank you very much.